I like cappuccino and fish fresh from the sea. Chips from the casino, I'll wager won't be free.
Science, and thank God it's not, because football isn't played by robots, as any other sport isn't either.
Yeah.
And there's something I always wondered about with, say, Alex Ferguson, who undoubtedly was probably the most achieving, best football manager there's ever been. You could argue, but of course his modus operandi was to create a fear element in his players, and I don't think now a manager would easily get away with that, because I think the power is pretty much with these highly paid footballers, and they would just tell him where to go if they spoke to him too strongly. But his system worked clearly, because Man United were brilliant for all those years. But again, I used to think when he would berate one of his players, even someone like Roy Keane, who was a pretty good footballer, for not doing this, not doing that, and he'd go into the dressing room at half time and kick his teacups around. But I thought, hang on a minute, they're humans, they will make mistakes. But it was as if his policy, and it worked, was no, you're not allowed to make a mistake. You must always be at the top of your game. So there's different ways of looking at it. And I think when we analyse, I do something called the Super Six each week. You may do the same. You predict 6 actual results, not just win or lose. And if you, it's a free thing. You enter online, and the prize is usually £250,000. It is won occasionally, certainly not by me. But it's so difficult, because you can put down what you think is an obvious result, and it very often doesn't come up. So for me, one of the big things is mentality. And I think you see it more, the need for a strong mental approach, say in a tennis player. You know, when one of the top players, and we've been blessed really the last 20 years to have, you know, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and even Murray at an earlier stage. But when they're up against it sometimes, and you sometimes think, how do they keep some semblance of self-confidence that they're going to come back and do what everyone expects of them? So these people develop an iron level of self-confidence and self-belief and a strong mentality, more so in an individual sport like tennis or golf perhaps. But in football, they still need that. And I used to play football for quite a few years, and there were games where people, I don't like to think I did, but if you're having a bad game, you hide. You know, you don't want the ball, and you don't let that be too obvious, but you just make sure you're near one of the opposition, so you're marked and you can't get the ball. I don't recall doing that, but that's what happens. You know, people hide in football because they're having a bad game. So people do have bad games. But anyway, what I'm really trying to say is the big danger to a foregone conclusion is complacency, and that can creep in, however, the intention not to let it. So yeah, I think it's an open mind on Saturday to some degree. I still believe City will win, but if they don't, I would not be so surprised.
Yeah, well, yeah. I hope.
Can I come in quickly before we round it up? I want to come to that, what Trevor said about Alex Ferguson, and I want to compare that to Guardiola as well. And I want to relate that also to the Chelsea teams of the early 2000s. Okay. Now, with Guardiola, you mentioned the mentality. With Ferguson, you mentioned the mentality that he likes to, maybe I'll say bully his players or something like that. Now, you're saying something about no coach will go away with it this time. I think coaches can still get away with it now if the management is rightly behind the coach. And I used to say, as a father in a house, you've got your kids around. You're in charge. Same thing goes with the coach. You're in charge. The only way you can have things work out the way you and your wife want it in that house, if you as a father say, this is how it's going to be in this house, because you probably know better than your kids, and your wife says, yes, whatever your dad says, that's it. But these days, most of the management of most of these clubs don't really go along. Look at what happened in United with Drogba and Mourinho and stuff like that. Some players in a team always want to cause chaos. And when other players sees that, why is he having his way? He's not got two heads on his shoulder. Why is he having his way? I'll have my way as well. And that's what causes problem in a team. But with Ferguson, then, you'll never win. There's no hiding place. There's no one you can run to. He's in charge. The owners want him to be in charge because they are getting results from the way he's doing it.
Yeah,
that was the same thing with Chelsea, with Mourinho in his first stint with Chelsea. I was listening to John Terry's interview with Simon Johnson recently, and he said the mentality. He said it got to a time Mourinho never told them what to do. They all know because they have the same mentality. You don't want to win. You have one or two, like you said, that might be complacent, and it's like a disease. That complacent. One player is a bit complacent. The other one now goes along and it spreads around the team. But if you get rid of that one, that this one's going to be complacent. No, you're not playing. Then the whole team have the same idea, the same winning mentality, the same way going forward. That's all you need. And that is what's happening in Guardiola's team right now. Phil Foden, the day he messes up or he's not going to be up to standard, he takes him out. Grealish, the day he knows he's not going to be up to standard, he takes him out and put somebody else who's got the same mentality with the other team to win the game. And that's why they're getting results.
All right. Oh, okay.
Well, he keeps their feet on the ground, doesn't he, Femi?
Exactly.
I think he doesn't let any one player get above himself or to become the star of the team.
Exactly.
They're all stars of the team. So, I think his management of that team, and you can tell the coaches are all in it together. Nowadays, of course, you get a manager like Palace have got Oliver Glasner, and he's doing very, very well. And he brings his team of coaches with him, which is very much the norm nowadays, the way they do it. But you can see they work as a team. They really do. It's exactly what you said. They're all singing from the same hymn sheet, as we say. And that's why I think he's getting this tremendous run of results for Palace. I think you're absolutely right. If you get one dissenting voice within that setup, it will sow doubts and stuff like that, won't it?
Yeah. Right. So now we're going to change the conversation a little bit because we don't want to be attacked by the female fans for not talking about female football.
Women's football,
female football. So, why do we think there's hope for women's football? I mean, it's really picked up lately, hasn't it? We've the female teams, the female Premier League. Do you think it will ever get the same accolades as the men's football? Everyone's keeping quiet.
Over to you, Femi.
Over to me. All right. Like I said, I'm always very straight to the point.
Yeah. Okay.
As much as I love female football, I do watch female football. I do watch Chelsea female team, City female team, Aston Villa, and the rest like that.
Yeah.
The ladies are doing tremendously well. I'll be very honest with you. Some of them you will not even believe. I'll be looking at, is she really a lady?
Yeah, the passing.
The way they play.
Yeah.
But you still get to see one or two that you can't really compare them to men. Men have been playing this game for centuries.
Right.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But when did ladies football just started? They are getting there, but they can never get to that top where the men's are. With the physicality, the skills over the years, they can't get there. But they are measuring up, but they can't. I'm sorry to say, they can't.
Yeah.
But they're doing really well. Sometimes I watch a female football and I said, wow. And I love watching it, I'll be honest. I love to watch most of the Champions League matches. It's Barcelona, Chelsea, Paris FC in France and stuff like that. Good football. I enjoy it, but measuring them up with the men's team,
it's not. Yeah. Well, I do think that they're doing tremendous work. Judging that, and it's not the fact that they're female. It's just the fact that it's quite new on the scene, you know, compared to men's football. But I think they're doing, you know, especially the English international team. I think they're doing really well. I think they're probably one of the best in the world, if not the best. Well, Spain won the last Euro. Was that cup that they won? Was that the World Cup that they won?
Yeah. No, it was the Euros.
Yeah,
Euros.
Yeah, that's all they did. Yeah, so you know, yeah. Well, Trevor, over to you.
Well, yeah, I think I would agree with pretty much everything Femi said, and you said as well. I enjoy watching it. I sometimes go with one of my granddaughters to our local Crawley ground, where Crawley, who've just come up into the League One on the playoffs, which is good. But Brighton women play there on their Sunday home games for the most part. So Kimberly and I go down there because we have Palace season ticket holders, but they're usually Saturday or other days, so we can go to some of the Brighton games. And now, in fact, just to, you know, say Crystal Palace ladies have just won the championship, so they're now coming up to the WSL from next season, and I think their home ground will be Sutton's ground. So I expect Kimberly and I will get along there once in a while. I really enjoy watching it. I take your point totally, Femi, that, and it's not a criticism to say that women's football cannot be in the same breath, really. I mean, that's not a criticism. They're two different games, and I think it's, as you said, physically, men will always be stronger. And yes, I think, you know, ability-wise, men, some male footballers, we look at Messi and Ronaldo and others are excellent. But that said, I mean, I've always enjoyed watching the England women's team. And for example, one player, Kyra Walsh, who was with Man City, and now I believe she went out last season to Barcelona. And she modelled her play, her parents said, she modelled it on David, what's his name? David Silva. Remember Man City?
David Silva.
David Silva.
David
Tremendous. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Superb. Yeah. And she plays like him. Her passing, Kyra Walsh's passing, is out of this world. I mean, she's as good as any male midfield footballer. We don't get too many great creative players now, but I remember in years past, maybe Beckham was an excellent passer of the ball. So was Rooney actually in midfield. They can pick out these long passes, and one of our players, Joachim Anderson, I mean, he does these long raking cross